Joel's going to start. We're going to talk good practical first.
Now, again, remember, subjective.
But our opinion is wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's wrong?
All right. Now, that was from the Guyver. Anybody know who the dude that turned into the big bug? Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
There you go. And I believe Screaming Mad George and Steve Wang directed it. And Screaming Mad George was a big effects guy, especially back in the 80s and the 90s. Personally, I think when I saw this is when it first went to video, so it had been a really long time, and I was looking for some clips, and I came across it, and I was more impressed by the way he looks at the end, because obviously now they would not even have bothered trying to create a big creature,
Cockroach.
Yeah, whatever the hell he is. Yeah, and so that was sort of the first example. Originally, that was going to be the thing, but just keeping that in mind.
Excellent. Very good. Okay, so the one I picked for my first one, is it, which one do you prefer? Is it Pale Man?
Yeah.
Okay, so I chose an example. Go ahead, you can click through. The one I chose is Pan's Labyrinth. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
There's a segment in this where Guillermo del Toro uses the Pale Man, and he creates this amazing creature, and he's got the hands up. But there are a couple of points of it. There is physical practical effects, but the legs, pay special attention to the legs of the creature. Those are all CGI, as well as the fairies that are part of this, which I think is just a beautiful, beautiful blend. And we don't have the good DVD version of it, but I love kind of the interaction of the CGI and the practical, the physical world, and it's very seamless. So. Again, very cool scene, and I love the way that they don't focus too much on the stuff that's CGI. It's a lot of it's meant to flow with the story and not be a real distractor, which again I think is a big point on effects.
And I just want to point out, you made the big time when the con you're at.
Comes in.
He goes, who are you
Comes
guys?
in.
That is awesome.
I bet George Lowe got that earlier too.
No.
So
we should have been like, we weren't supposed to, what? We should have played that off. That would be great.
All right, your turn.
Yeah, my turn. Okay, so the next one up is another example of good practical. I chose Tremors because I find it extremely depressing. I used to be a teacher, which is terrifying in and of itself. And in middle school, that's why I'm not one anymore.
Now the restraining order says he's not allowed as near
yeah, well, so
anywhere.
what? Come on in, man. And I would often bring up movies that I just sort of take for granted that people know, like, I don't know, Raiders of the Lost Ark and blank. Like, what? Oh, yeah. I got 160 kids, I'd have 5 that would know what I was talking about. That's sort of what one of the inspirations was for doing this podcast, was the idea that movies that we take for granted that, were incredible films that other people might forget. So this is a clip from Tremors. Again, we do apologize for quality because it's YouTube. So. Okay.
And is that where he says you picked the wrong basement to break into? Or
yeah. So they had like these miniatures. There was reprojection in there, and one thing that's interesting to note, like with all the practical effects type films, is that the cutaways, obviously, because you need those moments to sort of, especially like with the transformation scene, you position your actor to block them in just such a way. With CGI, and I mean, a lot of people make that argument that it's just it'll just be continuous. It'll just it'll flow through. There won't be as many cutaways. So.
Which is, I think, where the good examples come in. So, show my next one, and I'll show you the same type of thing that blends in. It's not so much just focusing on it the entire time. It's treating it like you're telling the whole story anyway. So, go ahead and let's go to that. My last one for the good CGI is, again, a blend. This is from Where the Wild Things Are, which is a very cool. The heads are all the faces and the heads in this are CGI, even though the body and the people, the costume is there, but the faces are actually blank and the faces are CGI. But it's brilliant it's beautiful the way they do the mouth and everything on this.
This part of your kingdom's not so good.
Why?
Oh, it's that dog. Don't feed it, it'll just follow you around.
It always reminded me of the big guys in Fraggle Rock.
Of course.
Yeah. But again, it's kind of a cool blend. It's not necessarily straight up. So we got some really cool stuff in here that we wanted to transition to, because as we put this list together, we realized there are a whole lot better bad examples. So we wanted to highlight what happens when they go wrong.
Yeah, and if one of your favorite movies is in here, we apologize in advance.
I don't, because these are all awful.
He's an asshole. I apologize in advance. All right, so
Yes.
let the snark begin.
What was your first one?
Hold on, I gotta take a second to remember. Oh yeah, so my first one is actually, I picked it because it's big budget and it's supposed to be from the original Superman. Not him flying around like I'll let go. It's actually the Hoover Dam scene, because you'll see. There's actually no audio on this particular clip, but
Well, and a good point too is that it's not about the whole movie being bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
We're
just
not
a
gonna-
scene.
yeah.
They try and do.
there's a couple in here that the whole movie is exceptional.
Okay.
But yes, to your point. All right. So yeah, so we have and it's slow motion, so the water looks a little more realistic. It's pretty much when you get up to the village. Yeah, so your train set.
Train set.
It was.
Proof that just making water go slow does not make it look big.
Yeah. If they let it go at the proper
My
frame
French
rate, it would have been really bad. So there's an example of a big budget movie, but they worked with what they got. And all right, so Jay, you ready for?
Yes. Let's go to mine. My first one is representative of a whole genre. I mentioned it at the beginning. I happen to love these movies, but the CGI in them is god awful, and I think that's part of why people like them and why I like them. So this actually is one of my favorites. So I picked one trailer to play as kind of the representative. So.
Wow. How was that a bad example?
Again, just that one little part, the part where you eat the train. The rest is awesome. The rest. Seriously, the best part of that movie is cake wrestling between Debbie Gibson and Tiffany.
I love created by man cut to shot of Tiffany.
I wouldn't say that's Tiffany's best film, but actually, Mega Piranha, which is the same vein, again, made by Silent, is even better. So you can catch that one. It has who's the guy that played in the TV series of Highlander, the long ponytail? Huh?
Is it Adrian Paul? Who's the
It
Highlander?
is Adrian Paul.
Was it Adrian Paul? Yeah, so he's in it too. So this is
Well,
just
sure
a
as
little
fuck
bit
wasn't
top.
Christopher Lambert.
Yeah.
Highlander 2. Right.
Quickening.
All right. So now, bad practical. Top of my head, I'm trying to remember which way. I think The Howling was my number 2, and I love The Howling. I love Joe Dante. Let's get that out of the way right. But at the end, and if you haven't seen The Howling, I'm going to spoil the very end of it. So if you want to walk out, come back in. I'm cool with that.
It's only 30 years ago.
Yeah, right.
You would be surprised emails one gets when one doesn't warn people about spoilers. So
Yeah.
I'm just letting it out now.
We do. We get hate mail for talking about what happens at the end of Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
So for this particular one, it's not so much that the execution of the effect is bad. It's just how it ends up. And if you've seen The Howling, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Must be satisfied. I know what you're thinking because I've been where you are,
That's enough. Leave
and
it.
it's possible
Leave
to
it. Cut.
imagine.
Leave it!
But I have proof, and tonight I'm going to show you something. Make you believe.
It's fun. It's like a dog.
It's a Pomeranian. It's like a
Switch, damn it, switch!
So yeah. So it's not so much that the execution was awful as much as it was, I think, more of a design thing, because
I'd say that was almost an Ewok.
And Rob Bottin, who was one of my favorite effects guys ever, was heavily involved. Rick Baker originally was on it and moved over to American Werewolf in London. But I don't know to what degree Mr. Bottin designed that particular one. But yeah, that was not one of my favorites. So.